projector on, just make sure. That's it.
Yeah, it's on.
Cool.
Very good.
All right. Scan and smile. Jack fire. It's always good to start out that. Okay. How many of you here, just show of hands, would consider yourselves risk takers? Matt's a risk taker, Jack's a risk taker, Pete's a risk taker. Now, consider this. What if any of you here had maybe $1 million and you had a chance to win $2 million? Now, obviously gambling it, you have a chance to lose it all too. Maybe you have your family on the line, you'll lose your family too. But instead, you know what the other player is going to do. You have the upper hand. The cards are stacked in your favor. What do you do it then? Well, this risk is very similar to the situation in nuclear energy today. As we know, electricity powers modern life. The lights on the ceiling, everything you do, your telephone, the camera right here is powered by electricity. And it's very important that we must generate the electricity to sustain our lifestyles. However, with carbon emissions coming from fossil fuels, such as coal, oil, petroleum, nuclear energy is looking like a very attractive option. According to Michael Grunwald of Time magazine, 20% of our electricity in the United States is produced by nuclear energy. However, 0% is carbon emissions. So, no atmospheric pollution through nuclear energy. Very good thing. Having written a research paper on this topic in Comp 111 here at Bucks County Community College, combined with my fascination and research of the subject, I feel incredible to talk to you about this. Today, I'm going to convince you of the dangers of nuclear energy, how nuclear power plants work, the accidents that happened in the past, and what might happen in the future. First, let's talk about what a nuclear power plant is in the first place. Now, as you may or may not know, in a traditional fossil fuel powered power plant, fuel is burned like coal, oil, petroleum, to create steam. And the steam turns a turbine, turns a generator, and makes electricity. Similar to this in nuclear energy, instead of burning the fuel, they literally split the atoms of uranium or plutonium. Now, when this happens, it generates the heat to produce the steam, but as a byproduct, it also generates radiation, which can cut through our cells and cause cancer and genetic mutations. Now, obviously, they contain this in the reactor with a thick lead wall around the reactor core. In a best-case scenario, nuclear energy creates nuclear waste. According to Alex and McFarland, 365,000 cubic meters of nuclear waste have been produced since 2007. And still, there is no permanent home. They're just sitting in the reactors, waiting to go somewhere. And also, there is a proposed site for nuclear disposal in Yucca Mountain, Nevada, but it's still up in arms. Now that you know the basics, let's explore past accidents. As we know, right here at home in Pennsylvania, in 1979, 3 Mile Island experienced what could have been a cataclysmic event. Over a 12-day crisis, the number 2 reactor in the plant experienced a partial meltdown. Now what this is when the fuel rods, the uranium or plutonium that's splitting, gets too hot, they can literally melt and become a nuclear lava. This lava can basically eat through the floor of the reactor and contaminate huge areas. Now, obviously, this radiation would get into the system, in the water, and everywhere, and cause cancer, maybe instant death, and genetic mutation throughout generations to come. Now, fortunately for us, there were no deaths attributed to 3 Mile Island. Let's crank up the heat a little bit, though. In 1986, Chernobyl in Russia happened. That was nothing short of a catastrophe. They were testing a safety procedure, ironically, and the reactor lid literally lifted off, and radiation, fire burst everywhere. Now, as you can imagine, with this radiation spewing out everywhere, it had a very, very far reach. In fact, let me show you on this PowerPoint slide. Obviously, the areas around Chernobyl received the most amount of radiation, but it stretched out 2,000 kilometers, all the way to European cities like Vienna, Venice, Rome, Munich, most of Europe, and some of Russia. Okay, slide on, please. By the way, that slide was from a 1986 issue of Environment magazine, the same year Chernobyl happened. Now, let's bring it to up to date. Recently in Fukushima, Japan, we probably all heard about this, a 9.0 earthquake hit, and also a 3-story tall tsunami. Now, the tsunami itself didn't affect the nuclear power plant, or, I'm sorry, the natural disasters did take a toll on the people in Japan. However, they caused a chain reaction as to what was to come in the nuclear power plants. The funny thing about this accident is, a few months ago I was talking to my parents, and I was saying how, well, what if an earthquake were to hit us? And, you know, the earthquake would cause its fair amount of damage, as we know they do. But what would happen if we lost control of the nuclear power plant? Obviously, the people would die from the disaster, but the nuclear power plant would kill off the survivors. Despite safety measures, Mother Nature has asserted her power, insisting humans don't have control of everything. Now that we're aware of past disasters, let's hypothesize about what can happen in the future. As we know, the earthquake that hit Japan could hit anywhere. In the United States, we have a nuclear power plant right next to Ocean City, New Jersey, Egg Harbor. Imagine if a tsunami were to hit there, or an earthquake. I don't think we'd be going to the shore this year. Yucca Mountain proposed waste site, where they're going to store nuclear fuel, possibly in the future, is in a good place to reduce the amount of radioactivity. However, it's right next to an active fault line. Now let's explore the idea of an asteroid hitting. As I showed you, the radiation radius from that, the Chernobyl accident, imagine if an asteroid that wouldn't kill all of us, but would kill a large population, were to hit an area with 2, 3, 4, several nuclear reactors. Now you can already imagine what's going to happen. The radiation, all the way around the world, you do the math. According to Alan Harris, a PhD in planetary dynamics, a fatal asteroid strike occurs once every 1,000 to 10,000 years. So it's really not a question of if, but when. Here's a quote I like from Jeffrey Kluger, a writer for Time magazine. Death by radiation has always been humanity's great self-inflicted wound. Nature may have cooked up the unstable elements that contain and emit radioactive energy, but it also took the care to hide the stuff away, burning it in mountains, sealing it in planetary cores. Humans had to work very hard to pick at that natural lock. In conclusion, I hope you're concerned about this as I am. We should examine the risks. Now that we know what nuclear power is, what has happened in the past, and what could happen in the future. Although no pollution is a result of the use of nuclear energy, it can fight back like no other energy source can. Japan may have harmed many people, but we have to learn from this, and I almost see it as a good thing. Before I conclude, I'd like to broaden your spectrum a little bit. Who here, as a show of hands, thinks that we have control of everything at all times? Nobody. Now, isn't that scary to know that we have nailed the final nail?